My primary goal with these things is not merely to provide the individual with one more training program and expect him to go off and blindly follow it. You can buy a muscle magazine these days for $4, get 20 programs out of there, follow those blindly, and be no better off. I will provide you with a detailed outline of a training program, yes, in about 30 to 40 minutes. But now, more important, beyond that, my primary objective here is to help you develop a firm understanding of some basic facts and truly valid scientific principles of exercise and nutrition so that you can learn to think more clearly, more logically about those subjects for yourself, guide your own efforts more successfully, of course, with a greater degree of confidence and certainty about what you're doing, and that's a real important issue with me, by the way. And so you won't have to continue to rely on, if you have been, the contradictory misinformation published in the muscle rags. That being stated, let me start officially. I call my approach to bodybuilding a rational approach, a logical, scientific, reality-based approach. The basis of a rational approach to bodybuilding and life in general, in fact, is the recognition that only the specific, appropriate knowledge can lead one to engage in the purposeful action required to successfully achieve a goal. Keep in mind that muscle magazines are not sacred scripture. They're not even science journals. They're muscle magazines. And what I'm going to present to you today is the specific, appropriate knowledge necessary for you to achieve your goal. Man, the human being, is not a cat, a dog, a bird, a horse. We are not instinctual creatures whose knowledge is hardwired into the nervous system. There is no instinctive principle to guide us in our training efforts, in other words, as many people seem to believe. A number of years ago, an old friend of mine joked about that idea. He said if we followed our instincts, we would defecate or urinate in a barbell. We sure wouldn't lift one. We are not instinctual creatures. We have to gain our knowledge through a voluntary mental effort, i.e., we have to choose to think to gain knowledge, and because most people don't know how to think, they make wrong choices in their thought processes. They don't know how to distinguish truth from falsehood. In fact, the entire world, including the world of bodybuilding, is literally awash in a sea of false ideas. This does not mean, however, that valid knowledge doesn't exist. It most certainly does. My favorite analogy or example here is with NASA, the Space Administration. Why have they been so spectacularly successful in sending men to the moon and in bringing them back safely each time? Not because they just kind of sort of know what they're doing. They have a firm intellectual grasp and understanding of the one and only possible valid theory of space travel. They have the specific appropriate knowledge necessary, and as a result, they've succeeded with each one of their man-moon missions. I tell my clients, and I'm telling you here today, you should view each one of your workouts literally as a sort of mission. And like NASA with theirs, you should fully expect to succeed with each one. Imagine we're down there in Houston at headquarters control NASA before a man-moon launch, and the director is sitting there wringing his hands, crying out, "Oh, gee, I hope we make it this time." Of course they don't. They are supremely confident. They have little doubt that they're going to succeed because they have the specific, appropriate knowledge. Theirs is a rational approach based on an understanding of logic and science and all the things that help make Western civilization possible. I emphasize this part because many bodybuilders find it impossible to believe or difficult to believe that they're going to succeed with each and every one of their workouts. So I take the time and point out, now look, if NASA can succeed with every one of their man-moon missions, let's face it, an enormously complex goal requiring abstract theoretical knowledge from physics, electronics, astronomy, engineering, mathematics, you mean to tell me we can't succeed with each one of our missions to the gym here on Earth? And they present it in that kind of a scientific context. They see my point. Central to this rational or enlightened approach to bodybuilding is an understanding, in fact, that there is a relationship between science and human progress. Why is life today in the 1990s so much better in so many ways than it was 50, 100, or 500 years ago? Well, largely because of the advances of science. The purpose of science is to identify the facts of reality. From those facts, derive a theory whose principles serve as a guide for successful human action. When you're doing this thing properly, once you understand the theory of high-intensity training and learn to implement the principles properly, you'll see progress, not unpredictably in tiny dribbles every now and then, but every workout. I don't say that blindly or as a zealot. It's because I understand that that theory is a valid theory. And the purpose of a scientific theory, again, is to serve as a guide for successful human action. You should not waste even 1 week with non-productive training. You literally should not, because we're not in the dark ages on this. There's no mystery here. There are reasons why muscles grow. There is a science of productive bodybuilding exercise, and I happen to know what it is with a high degree of certainty. You should not waste even 1 week with non-productive training. In order for you to know that you're not wasting your time, in order for you to know that your workouts are successful, you will need, of course, a reliable or rational standard to gauge or evaluate each and every one of your workout efforts. Most bodybuilders use the wrong standard for evaluating their workout-to-workout progress. I emphasize workout-to-workout progress. The standard they use is body weight increases. I know of bodybuilders, I was myself a bodybuilder who did this. I know bodybuilders who every time they walk into the gym, the first thing they do is step on the scale. If they're not gaining weight every workout or every week, then they suspect something is wrong, and in most cases something is wrong, but it's not necessarily the fact that they're not gaining weight. Don't evaluate your workout-to-workout progress by the standard of body weight increases, because muscle growth on a daily basis, even at best, is negligible. Even at best is negligible. Let's take a best-case scenario. Let's say you had the required genetics, first of all. You were going to train properly in the course of the next year, eat adequately, and gain 30 pounds of muscle. Certainly a best-case scenario. As great as that is, 30 pounds of muscle in 1 year only averages out to literally slightly over 1 ounce a day, which is not enough to register on your typical body weight scale every day or even every week. There are 16 ounces in a pound, of course. If you gain 1 ounce a day, you gain a pound every 2.5 weeks or so. And if on that given day you got a haircut and had diarrhea, you would register a weight loss. Do you see why we should not be using body weight increases as your standard for evaluating workout-to-workout progress? Ultimately, of course, most bodybuilders want to gain weight. Ultimately, but the point I'm making here is workout to workout, you want to know that you're on the right track so that you ultimately do gain muscle. Noticeable body weight increases and muscle mass increases. You cannot use body weight increases as your standard, obviously, because muscle growth on a daily basis, even at best, is negligible. The appropriate standard to use for evaluating bodybuilding progress is strength increases. When you're training properly, you'll be going up in reps, in weight, or both, every set of every exercise, or damn near. I have had clients that have gone up on every set of every workout for many, many months. I've had other clients do almost that well, but all of my clients, every one of them makes regular, continual progress, without a doubt. Most bodybuilders don't know this, but in fact, a properly conducted bodybuilding program is essentially a strength training program. What I want you to get out of this part here is that you'll be training workout to workout for strength increases and evaluating your progress in terms of strength increases. Train for strength and evaluate your progress in terms of strength increases. Why do we use strength increases, in fact, as a standard for evaluating bodybuilding progress, you might be wondering? Because there is a relationship between muscular strength and muscular size. If you want to get bigger, in other words, you've got to get stronger. If you want to get bigger, you've got to get stronger. I emphasize that one because there's a reluctance on the part of most bodybuilders to accept that idea. If you want to get bigger, you've got to get stronger. Just the other day in Gold's Gym, a young man was arguing with me about that quite vehemently and at some length. I finally stopped him and asked, what are you supposed to do to get bigger? Get weaker? And he kind of giggled. Furthermore, I said, if there was no relationship between strength and muscular size, it would be conceivable, if there was literally no relationship at all, it would be conceivable that people like Dorian Yates could only curl 50 pounds. When in fact he curls over 200 pounds. He got as big as he did in part because he got as strong as he did. If you want to get bigger, you've got to get stronger. Now, while all that is true, beyond any shadow of a doubt, it's also true, and this is an important follow-up statement, it's also true that for most people, strength increases precede size increases. Most people get stronger for a while without getting bigger. But as long as an individual continues to get stronger, he'll eventually get bigger. Now, just how strong he gets, how long it takes, I can't say, because those are matters dictated by genetics. But as long as you're getting stronger, you know you're on the right track. That's true for most people, by the way. I was one of those individuals myself. I can remember in the early part of my training career especially, there would be periods of even as long as 4 months. I remember this very clearly. There were periods of months during which I would get stronger on a regular basis and not gain any weight. As a result, I grew enormously frustrated and almost gave up more times than I cared to remember. When I say frustrated, I mean painfully, agonizingly frustrated. It was only years later that Arthur Jones pointed this out, and I saw it was true in so many cases, that for most people, strength comes first. I'm emphasizing it to you here today so that you can avoid my frustration. I don't want you calling me back in 2 months, in other words, reporting gleefully how much your strength went up. Geez, Mike, I went up 80 pounds on my squats, 120 pounds on my shrugs, but I only gained 3 pounds. That wouldn't be bad. If you were to gain 3 pounds every 2 months, of course, by the end of the year, you'd end up having gained 18 pounds, which ain't bad. Some people wonder just how much muscle that is. Take a moment and visualize sitting in front of you on your dinner table a single individual 1-pound beefsteak. Now imagine 18 of them. That would probably be enough to cover your dinner table almost. If you were to sustain that rate of growth for 2 years, of course, you'd end up gaining 36 pounds of muscle. Imagine 36 individual 1-pound beefsteaks on your dinner table. I'm pointing all this out to you today to help you gain a rational perspective on what you can reasonably hope to achieve with this and thus avoid frustration. Frustration is often the greatest hindrance to bodybuilding progress. And of course, part of the reason for frustration is ignorance. There is a proper rational perspective within which to view this. You're not going to gain 5 pounds of muscle a week, in other words. There may be those weeks, in fact, when you do gain 5 pounds, which is the way I gained. I would go for several months without gaining any weight, then all of a sudden, voila, I stepped on the scale and I'm 5 pounds heavier.